All right, guys, we are here with our friend Ryan today. Ryan is a really great friend of mine from my kids' school. Over the years, we've become really good friends, and we've talked a lot about his real estate journey. As usual, we're going to talk about real estate, money, and life. How you feeling today? You good?
Feeling good. Feeling really good. Ready for this.
So, I want to talk about, to start off, when did you buy your first house?
So, bought our first house in 2019, and it was a triplex. Basically, house hacking 101. We lived in one, rented the other two out. Very exciting. Just, duplex. We got really lucky that it was a amazing, old 100-year-old charming craftsman in the front. And in the back was a duplex, and we were actually able to put a fence between. So, for all intents and purposes, we were living in our own home, and it was quite removed from the rest and so forth, which was really exciting as well.
Yeah, so I've seen this house. It's an amazing house, by the way. It has the full functionality of a regular house that you would live in: backyard, front yard, no garage, but you do have the two units in the back that are fully removed from the front unit. When you bought that house, was that the intent that you wanted to supplement your mortgage payment, or was it in thinking that you might sell it in the future? What was the original plan for that house?
A great question. So the original plan was supplement mortgage payment and hopefully build equity over time. And we, and so far, so good. It's actually happening.
Okay, so you bought it in 19. Did you have anybody living in the units at that time, or did you have to rent both of them out?
So we rented both of those out. We changed, once we took ownership, cleared the rent roll and started again.
Okay, so you put a couple people in there to try to help pay the mortgage on the main house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got a good deal on the place. In terms of a percentage, give us an idea about how much of your mortgage payment was covered by the rent on those two units.
Great. So let me tell you a bit about how we structured it. We structured it as an interest-only loan, which I'm sure you know. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of.
Okay. Interest-only loan, if people don't know, is where you finance a property with being able to forego a lot of the principal payments until later on. In the beginning years, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 4 years, sometimes it's 6 years. You only pay interest, which in turn gives you a little bit lower payment in the initial years of the loan.
Absolutely. So remember, this was 2019. Interest rates were a lot lower than they were today. I think we came in at around, I want to say 3.5% to 4%, around there.
That's amazing. That doesn't exist these days.
Absolutely. And so the tenants were actually covering the full interest. So, we weren't paying down our principal, but we were effectively living in a house that we own, building equity without any outflow.
For free.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the maintenance.
Number one. Yes. And that's more difficult to do right now, only because, number one, interest rates are not as low as they used to be. Home prices have obviously gone way up in compared to when you bought it, right?
Absolutely. I want to say that we weren't expecting to have 100% of the payment covered by the tenants. I mean, that worked out fantastically.
You got lucky.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I will say we probably looked at, I'm going to say 50, maybe closer to 100
houses.
Properties.
Yeah.
Exactly right. To try and find one that we would want to live in and, enjoy, but at the same time have something that we can rent out. A lot of the places that we saw were a lot harder to live in, if I could say.
There's a really important reason why I want to discuss this. A lot of people today don't fully understand the house hacking aspect, which is, even if your house today sold for $2 million, for example, double what you paid for it, those units in the back still can supply some offsetting factors with the mortgage payment, right?
Absolutely.
And that's so important. We did that on this house. We actually rented the office that we're sitting in right now. We did short-term rental on this. We were getting about $3,500 a month, and our mortgage payment was around 3,000. So we were also living for free in this big, beautiful house, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
And the real estate journey for a lot of people is trying to find something that they can either A, take from a single house and add units to the back or to the side or wherever you can do it in order to offset their mortgage, or they buy something like you did where you already have units in the back.
That's it. That's absolutely it. And I'm glad you went there, because really, what are we trying to do now with the property? We're trying to add units on the back.
Sure. You want to not even break even now. You want to actually make money, right?
That's it. So right now, working with a designer in the city to try and work out what the best options are. But currently, we're looking at building 3 to 5 units in the back. Let me step back. There's an existing car pad behind the duplex that is already rented out.
Okay.
We're gonna basically turn the car pad into garages and then build on top.
Amazing.
3 to 5 units, depending what the city allows.
Do you have any idea how many units you're going to be able to build?
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, 3 to 5 is kind of what we're looking at.
Okay. On top of the 2 or?
On top of the 2. So we'd end up with, say, 5 or 7, depending on how it lands.
That's fantastic. And as we all know, rents in San Diego have exponentially grown since you bought that house. So even nowadays, the rents that you can get on those is a lot more than you were getting before. So potentially you can add a lot of ancillary income to your bottom line.
Absolutely. And so when we bought it in 2019, primary focus was cash flow to cover the mortgage. Now the primary focus is actually, we're going to take that extra cash flow. It's growing, as you said, because rents are higher. But the number one reason we're doing this is actually to build equity. So we're actually going to put in, effectively double our square footage, if not more.
Right. And what is your ultimate plans for this house? Are you going to sell it? Or are you going to keep it?
I'd love to keep it. I'd love to condo map it, which is basically saying break the parcel or the, from a legal perspective, into a number of units so they can be sold individually. And I'd love to keep it, but I want that option to be able to sell them individually if I can.
That is actually a really amazing topic. There is a bill that has been passed which allows San Diegans and or Californians to condo map, which means you can effectively create a condo out of a multi-unit property and sell all of the individual units. Game planning for the future, the potential is from an investor standpoint, you can build 3, 4, 5 units in the back. You can sell half of them, which would give you the opportunity to take that money and invest in another property and or pay that one off, and then rinse, wash, repeat.
Absolutely. That's exactly the plan, to use some of that equity to basically start another project.
Right. And so that is going to segue into my next question. You've owned this one property since 2019. This was the first property that you ever bought. What are your plans for the future when it comes to investing in real estate?
Great question. So right now, we've talked about building equity with the current property. My goal, and it's going to talk a bit about, I guess, our purpose, or my purpose, my wife and I, is in terms of what we want to do. We're looking to use the extra equity to allow us to purchase 1 or potentially 2 existing houses, and do kind of what you said earlier. Look for a place that has a backyard or some space and build on
for
there.
building.
Exactly, potential for building, and chat with designers in the city and work with you and see if we can actually turn it into something.
Okay, so Ryan, you are not a real estate investor by trade. What do you do? What do you do? Explain to everybody what you do for a living.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you where I started, and I'm tell you where I am now.
Okay.
All right. So I started as a management consultant out of university, at a uni, they call it there, or college here.
Okay. And where's there?
Great question. So I grew up in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay.
And have been in San Diego since 2010.
Okay. And so you started off there.
In management consulting. And really, the focus there was really on, big, mega cap, super major, fortune companies. And I got really lucky where I came in, I should take a step back. Let's go a bit further. So my first job was when I was 12, and I was doing paper
is when
rounds.
you didn't have gray hair, right?
When I didn't have gray hair.
Yes. Okay.
Although I started early. I started when I was 15, would you believe? But yeah, so rewind back. I started working when I was 12. I did paper rounds. I worked in a pharmacy, so I was basically delivering drugs, or drug mule, they now call it.
Okay, drug mule.
Absolutely.
Nice. People that do that now,
yeah,
are doing stuff illegally.
Right. Yeah, this was more, from a pharmacy to old age homes, things like that, assisted living. And then I worked at a bowling alley. I worked in on laboring on a construction site during summer. Worked at a grocery store, cafe. So
you did a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff, right? And then I got really struck by consulting when I was doing an internship at this company. The company was called ICI. It was a large chemicals company. I was just there. I was in high school. I was doing an intern job, and I was just entering data, basically. It was really simple, data entry. I was a high school kid. I was happy. I was wearing a suit and went into the big city, sort of thing, right? And
that must have felt good at that age, right?
It was really good. And it was funny. There was this team of 5 people in the other cubicle or the other area, and they saw me come in, and I was consuming everything I could. I've always been a super nerd. I was consuming document after document, and they looked at me, and they were a group of consultants from one of the big 4 consulting firms, right? And they actually thought I was auditing them in their project.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
So, I got talking to them, and they were like, "You're not the auditor?" I was like, "I'm the intern. I'm just meant to enter data here."
Yeah.
And I found this interesting, so I'm just reading it, and I had these ideas. And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I started talking to them, and they said they actually convinced the person that was the manager that hired me for the internship that I shouldn't be doing data entry, and I should join their consulting project.
That is amazing.
So I was.
And how old were you at this point?
This was in the 11th grade. So I would have been 17 or something like that.
Wow.
Right, and it's a big 4. I mean, KPMG actually. It's a big 4 consulting firm and audit and consulting firm.
So you got into consulting world way early.
Super early, and I read all the books. I started consuming, just like the Wall Street Journal in Australia, the Australian version, kind of daily. And at the start, the words didn't make sense, and the more you do it, they start making sense. Right?
Yep.
And did a couple of internships as I was in college, a couple of internships at 2 of the other big 4 consulting firms.
Okay.
In different departments, but all around consulting. And then when I finished college, I actually left and joined UBS. They're a investment bank, basically.
Okay.
And so
in consulting as well?
So it's interesting. That was why I stepped back. And actually, the move wasn't consulting. It was actually mergers and acquisitions.
Got it. Okay. So you switched fields there.
I switched fields and went back and after a couple of years there, basically, I jumped back to consulting when the company I then joined, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC.
Yes.
Basically,
we know them out.
Yeah, that's it. They're definitely out here. Basically, they were starting their consulting practice, and they were poaching people from left, right, and center. And so they poached some senior leaders from UBS, right, and McKinsey, Bain, all the big consulting firms and banks. They poached a bunch of people, and I was still junior, super junior, and it was about 9 o'clock one night, so we worked pretty long hours. Senior VP at UBS came over.
The first one there and the last one to leave, right?
Look, it's part of it, right? It's part of it. And when you're learning, when you're growing, I mean, there's a passion that fuels you to work those hours in a different way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, at that age, you have nothing but time and energy, and I feel like I've done that in a lot of different careers that I've had where the only way to go was 100 miles per hour. Because if you took your foot off the gas, there'd be a young buck right behind you ready to take your place.
Yeah, and there definitely was a bit of that, right? And so I jumped over to consulting. What I thought, I got hired for this role, which was post-merger integration. So after you merge these 2 companies, you've got to kind of make them work together because they're 2 separate entities, and everything from the culture to the IT systems to the way they work day to day, and their business models are different. And so this was more about integration. It was super interesting. But PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC at that stage was so new in the consulting space and we didn't have many people around, that we just started doing everything.
Okay.
We were, it was almost like duct tape on everything, make it work.
Yes.
Jump from, project to project. What started as merger integration then became market entry or pricing jobs or supply chain jobs and things like
So
this.
you were wearing
It's
a
really
lot of
interesting.
hats at that time.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. And I know I'm nerding out here. Fast forward, that gave me an opportunity to work with different industries. That kind of made I guess, the resume or the stamps and the passport look right for some companies in the US.
Sure.
And a boutique out here kind of, offered me a job. And so I jumped across in 2010 to the US.
Okay. So you first came out here in 2010, and what company did you work for when you came out
Sure.
here?
I worked for a company called Ankylosaria, and basically they're a boutique supply chain firm, basically looking at cost management. Super interesting. They're a super small company, but literally they have worked with everyone. And it kind of blew my mind that the company could be so small and still kind of have the client list, the badges, the logos of any of the larger firms out there.
So you saw them as a company you wanted to work for because of their resume and
and the fact that they were able to stay small. So what I loved about it was what they'd unlocked. I felt like they'd unlocked a cheat sheet or not a god mode, but there was definitely a really cool cheat here where they were able to stay small. The owners were able to own the company.
Yeah, so
and they still work with everyone.
It wasn't a PricewaterhouseCooper model. It was It was more boutique. I get that. That's the boutique firms that you work for. You have any given time you can walk into the boss's office, right? And you can't always do that with every company. If you work for Amazon, you can't knock on Jeff Bezos' door and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Bezos, can I come in here and talk to you?" Right?
Absolutely.
And these smaller boutique firms, even though it sounds like this one had a massive clientele, you could walk into the boss's office and say, "Hey, I have a great idea. Can I pitch it to you?" And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think the closer you can get to that, I would trade that any day. And I'm saying that having the stamps and the passport, right, from some of the big names, I think if you can actually, if you're keen, you're hungry, you're willing to learn, it's not hungry for dollars, it's hungry for knowledge, it's hungry for impact, outputs, and then outcomes.
Right.
If you're hungry for that, the closer you can get to the owners or the action.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think always.
I love that. And so there's a window there from when you came down in 2010 to 2019 when you bought that house. Obviously, in the mix there, you got married.
I did.
You had some children.
Yep. There was one at that stage, and there's two more since.
Yep. Okay. And the idea behind buying the house was obviously the importance was that you wanted a home for your family, right?
Absolutely.
That was like the motivating factor then.
That was the number one. And we were renting. Family was growing. We'd moved from a very small 1-bedroom to a very small 2-bedroom rental. And
so you're paying somebody else's mortgage. Right?
Absolutely. And it wasn't cheap. We were in a very nice neighborhood. And so absolutely, it was not cheap at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, the more I talk with people and the conversations that we have about, like I said, the real estate journey is, there's always there's this roadmap that's not always straight, right? I've talked to people that have a property that they live in now that they rent, and sometimes they're older, they have families, and yet they're still in a rental. It's not necessarily always by choice, right? Sometimes you want to own, but the pathway hasn't led you to a position where either you can own and or that you might have gotten you missed the window in which you could afford the interest rates or the payments or whatever it might be. And sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of the times it really comes down to getting lucky.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's just, it's so wild. Your property that you bought, you said you paid 700?
1.1 actually.
1.1, sorry. Yeah,
right, yeah.
1.1. And that property is easily probably in the $2 million range right now, maybe more than that.
Right.
And of course, when you add the units, it will be even more than that. But, you have doubled your investment on that property from when you bought it until now, which is so wild because, in a lifetime, people don't make $1 million. And you invested in a piece of property that you're living in. You're going to live there. I mean, you maybe not forever, but you live there. You needed a house anyways, right? And
Absolutely.
you were able to live there for free because of the offsetting renters in the back. I mean, that is a real estate success story if I've ever heard one. Not everybody can do that or gets lucky enough to do that. So
I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right in that there's a bunch of luck in there too.
yes.
I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, and also just to have this as a piece of that puzzle, you also have worked really hard and been really successful in your business, or else you couldn't have afforded to buy a $1.1 million property, right? So it's not all about, I found this property and there's units in the back and I can rent them and I can live for free. You also have to qualify to buy a $1.1 million house.
Right.
So there's still moving parts within that entire scheme that that is not as cut and dry as, I found this property, I bought it for 1.1 million, now I'm living for free. You still had to do some other stuff in order to make that achievable.
Yeah, no, the story is never, it's never just the Instagram moments. I kind of think of them that way.
Yes.
If you look at it, like, your audience care about real estate, they care about growing their net worth to secure their future for, themselves, their loved ones, or for other ambitions. And like, that's kind of the first driver. And then kind of what I mentioned helped me with my consulting career and moving from and getting those stamps in my passport applied here too. I just kind of applied the same logic. You want to be hungry, you want to learn, you want to talk to people. Back in the day, it was, I think, Bigger Pockets was the podcast I listened to.
Yes, Bigger Pockets.
Right.
Yeah, I love Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, and I probably listened to the first, I went back, I was, it had already been around for a while. You would have known it for a while. I went back and listened to the first 150 episodes, right? And again, kind of like when I was reading, the Wall Street Journal, when I first started, all the terms didn't make sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
But by the time you get to, podcast 20 and 40 and 60,
like interest only.
Right. Things like interest only come up and you start exploring it. And then you talk to a bank and a second bank and a third bank. And you talk to someone who's done it before. And all of a sudden, now you start piecing that together and that becomes part of your strategy. Or house hacking, right?
It's interesting you say all that because, and me and you have been going through a similar journey with the building. I am a contractor by trade, and I am already building things. But me and you went on a similar journey with figuring out what we could build, how many of them we can build, where to build, what size to build, cost to build, all of these really intricate details of adding investment utility to your property. We were able to kind of go back and forth and figure that out. And we kind of still are figuring that out. As of right now, we have the same architect designer working on both of what we have. So
absolutely.
And it's not easy. It's a challenge.
No, there's real work there. There's real push and pull.
Yes.
But I think how would I frame it? It's approachable. It's not rocket science. Like, I have this frame. Even rocket science isn't rocket science once you break it down to the
fundamentals.
To the fundamentals.
Sure.
Right. And the fact that you think that there's 4,000 people, there's still one person working with this part of the door or this hinge or something like that, something that we can relate to, right? Even,
Yeah, I always look at real estate investing as something that you really have to have all the correct pieces of the puzzle. But not only that, but you also have to put them together in the right order. It's like doing a puzzle and doing the outside part of the puzzle first so that you have the framework.
I love that.
And then you put all the pieces together and you color code them, and then suddenly next thing you know, you've put together a corner, and then you slowly done another corner. It's not just throwing pieces together and hoping that it comes together. You have to do it in a really specific way. And if you don't do it that way, then things go wrong.
I love it. And so my counter or my tension point to what I said earlier, everything rocket science isn't rocket science, right, is another frame. Everything is rocket science. Like when you break down, it could be a fruit and the way it's grown, or the biology, or
Yes.
a computer, or anything else, right? Or a person, or what you do, or what it takes to, to be you,
Mm,
right? There's always 400 steps, and it's always more complex than what you see on Instagram.
right.
But it doesn't mean it's not approachable or you can't do it. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the frame, the tension between everything's rocket science and rocket science isn't rocket science.
Yeah.
It's kind of really
Totally.
interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly about that. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I learn new stuff every day. Just recently, this
Go on.
is super wild. So I learned that sight, so what you're
Yep.
looking at is actual micro atoms that are flowing to your eyeball. It's not like what you would think, which is somehow you're seeing something. There's a
Mhm.
it's something traveling towards your eye that is going
Like
towards it,
photons.
and photons,
Yes,
and it's being
Yeah.
translated. Just watch this amazing flick. It's on Netflix right now. It's called Frankenstein.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yes, it is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Oof.
And he's learning about the lymphatic system.
Okay.
And this entire thing that he's learning about, they map the entire lymph system out on this board.
Right.
And it's just, there's so many different parts to the human body that it's, to me, I'm befuddled on how humans were created.
How are we here? Yeah.
It's so wild that we have all these things within our body that are symbiotically working together: lungs and heart and spleen and kidneys and veins and blood, and just it's not one thing. They are working in harmony together to literally make you live. And to me, that just is, it's like a symphony of the horn people and the drummers and the violinists and all that stuff, that the only way it all works is if they are all working in harmony together. And it just, to me, is, that's so wild.
It's mind-blowing. And it makes me think of, like, super extraordinary. And when you think, two things came to mind. So one was, like, all of this has to work together, and it has to work together with other organisms. Like I heard that, you've got pounds or, pounds and pounds of your body, your weight is actually bacteria, right? So other organisms that are needed to make us work, right? Make us function.
Is that not insane? Organisms inside of our body that are working like biomes inside of our...
And we have to, right? And it's, and you actually, there's a lot of research now, like you said, the gut biome, right? And the gut being your second brain, because of what that bacteria is doing. We actually need those brains, or, bacteria has brains, right? In terms of cell structure, but them together are effectively creating a second brain to help, that actually affect the lymphatic system. And,
it's
and others.
It's insane. Like, I don't...
crazy.
It's hard to like really fully fathom how it all works together, but that is a whole nother thing. As I get older, I try to pay attention to my body a lot more than I did as a younger kid.
You don't have a choice sometimes.
Right. I mean, just things that can affect you. I had kidney stones the other day, which was awful. And I was so exhausted from having kidney stones that day that I came home and passed out. And of course, I slept wrong on my neck. I couldn't turn my head for 4 days. This is...
And it's something as simple as that, right? But you're debilitated. You literally can't do anything.
What do you do? I mean, it's getting old sucks. But we can only do what we can do, right? We have to take care of ourselves, make sure that we're doing whatever we can to keep ourselves healthy. And there's a lot of things, obviously, that you can do that they tell you about, but then there's other things that I don't think know about yet either. And it's the not knowing everything that makes me interested in going down those rabbit holes.
As you can tell, we love rabbit holes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and actually a subject that I want to broach with you right now, because I think we talked about this the other day, and I thought this was so wildly interesting, and I'm going to kind of pass it off to you because I don't know enough about the subject to really weigh in on it as much, but I know you've done a little bit of research, and it has to do with AI
Right?
and
Love it.
our kids. And I think that there's a really interesting aspect to AI in general that we don't quite understand it fully, and it's continually evolving, and it's becoming more and more of a daily life thing for us.
Yeah.
What I don't know is, as we are growing, we understand it, but our kids are in, second grade, right? They don't have really any AI in their lives at all right now, maybe indirectly, but not directly. So moving forward, where do you think that's going to affect them from now until they're of an age that they can fully comprehend how it all works?
Yeah, this is a super interesting topic for me, right? So for your audience, right? Most of us are not AI experts. Most of us are not AI trained, right? We didn't go to school for AI related fields potentially. And so AI is still super new for us. And I know that you and I are very much AI curious, right? We're out there, we're trying things, we've played around quite a bit, and we've gone a lot further than, say, prompts and prompt engineering to actually, coding, building things, more
Yes.
advanced things that we can get into at another stage, right? We're curious. Well, actually, AI is actually making us money, saving us money in different ways too, right?
Mm-hmm.
On both fronts. Even with that, I think most of our population at large, even if you're curious, do we really understand it, right? It's kind of the first question, right? And so, and then where am I going with this? Basically, we can be curious, but we also understand to some degree that there are risks, right? When I think about, let me just put up a few risks. So there's things like AI biases, right? So we know about hallucinations and biases in the responses. It's trained on data, but it's trained on human data, and humans have biases.
Sure.
Right? So we're so we've definitely got biases. We know about his hallucinations, things like deep fakes.
Mm-hmm. Which I think might,
Mm-hmm.
I foresee that, not to interrupt you,
No,
but
please.
I do foresee that becoming an issue in the future.
Right.
I listened to somebody interviewed about a deep fake, and it was somebody, I don't know, I can't remember who it was, somebody famous, and they were selling a product, and it was this person. Now, just imagine for a second that you go online
Mm-hmm.
and you see yourself and you're selling, I don't know, butt cream or
Right.
something. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
And you didn't do it,
You didn't do it. You weren't there. You weren't part of this.
and you didn't get paid
You
for
didn't
it.
get paid for it.
But it's you selling it.
Yeah, and it might not even be something you endorse philosophically. Like there's money, but it's also
Yeah, you might not have ever wanted to do it.
right.
I mean, this is, I mean, okay, like just take something, I don't know, like not even illegal, but something that you fundamentally disagree with, that you would never in a million years endorse, right? And the next thing you know, you're endorsing it on social media because somebody created you doing that. Now, I don't know why anybody would want to do that with me or you, or
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
but super.
With your face, I could see people doing it.
And
Yes.
here's a almost larger issue, is a large group, a large percentage of the population believe these things. They cannot decipher what is real and what is fake, especially it's your grandma or grandpa or your mom or your dad,
Mm-hmm.
and they're older and they don't have the wherewithal to like spot something and go, that's not real.
And it's getting harder for us as well.
Right.
The technology is getting that good, right?
I think for me and you, we know
Mm-hmm.
that We are taught to judge everything, right? To not necessarily sit and just believe everything that we see, right? But I think that somebody who's not as savvy might, and I don't mean savvy in a bad way, I just mean savvy in terms of knowing that it's something, looking at something and going, it might not be real, right?
Absolutely. So let's bring that back to kids, right? So we talked about, we've got kids in the second grade. I've also got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, right? And I looked at this and said, Gen Alpha, right now are digital natives. They grew up with social media and the internet. Our kids are AI native, right?
Yes.
It's all around them. But the key difference here is digital or code, things like that, is just learning a language, right? It's innate. You can learn it, you can understand it. It does what it's told. AI, on the other hand, is now learning by itself, learning the way we might learn in some ways, right? And so we don't have the same level of control over the system.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
And systems. You brought up, you summarized it really well with the deep fakes. One of the biggest problems and why we have to care about whether it's real or not is because what we're actually looking for there is trust, right? What should we trust? What should we not trust?
Right.
Right? And so there's a huge piece around trust. And when you think about raising your kids and raising them in a way that I don't want to shield them from AI. I'm not saying AI is bad altogether. We want to teach them how to harness, how to use, how to be curious, right? But also cautious. Understand some of the limitations, right?
So tell me an example of what you feel would be something that would be dangerous for children with AI.
Great. So I'm going to give you one around trust, and I'm going to give you a second example on a different topic that I'll tell you in a minute. So with trust, really simple, deep fake, right? We show you an image that's somewhat fake, right, on the internet, and it's AI generated, it's a fake. And the key question I ask, right, let's say it's actually a social media post that I was actually creating. I was going to throw it out there. I haven't done it yet. So I'll send it. I'll give you the link after.
Okay.
So you can send it to your audience. Basically, it's, would your kid know this is fake, right? And what if it was a note from their friend? What if their friends just did, this is just like, the old days with chat and so forth. Your friend might say something online, right? Now it looks like you've said it online. It looks like you've bullied someone else online on the playground, or you've done something wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah. And first, would your kid know it's fake? I mean, I think that's the first question.
Yes.
Because they're going to make decisions based on that. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So you're saying, for example, on a social media post that, and I think I want to throw something out after this as well, which I talked to my good friend Matt Murphy today. He's a school teacher, and we talked about something, which I'm gonna throw out the end of this. Somebody would post something on social media, and that would say, I don't know, you're bullying somebody online, right? But it's not really you. So it's coming from an AI that looks like you're bullying somebody, or it's a video of
you. Yeah.
Doing it, right? Yeah. So two quick things I want to talk about why this is on the floor, and I don't mean to jump around, but I just think that these are sort of important topics. One of them being kids these days have very short attention spans, and the reason why is because you're able to flip through your phone very quickly, and if you get bored on a specific subject, you could just flip up. And if you get bored, you flip up.
And it's a dopamine hit, right?
It's every time, right? Yeah. So there's that. And then the second thing is our schools are pushing this Wait for 8 program, which is don't give your kid a phone or social media until 8th grade. And I know that's really challenging for a lot of people, but I think it's so important. We're definitely doing that with our kids. We're not going to let them have social media or a phone until they're old enough to be responsible with it.
Absolutely. And so we're the same. I want to say that we're holding off on phones, and we're pretty strict on screen time, right? And I understand plenty of reasons why. Other people may use screens in different ways. Totally get it. We're pretty strict. But one thing I am doing when we think about AI and kids is I've done a bunch of research from all the leading schools. Think of like the universities, Harvard and MIT and Stanford and so forth, and all the others, right? All the leading AI houses, Google, DeepMind, Microsoft, Anthropic, OpenAI, so forth, right?
Yep.
And I've been distilling their human-centered AI concepts and distilling early childhood studies and the way, children work and learn and so forth.
Yes.
And I've been piecing these together, and it's actually just in the last month, I've been each week releasing a post on Substack, which is talking about how we actually want to think and be curious and engage our kids in AI. So
be curious, not judgmental.
That's it. It's
Walt Whitman.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think there's a piece on this where, so we talked about trust. There are two other really big issues, or really big focal points or tension points for me. The other one is, can learn and get so much from using AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We use many of them, but both of us.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. But what I really want to think about here is, when ChatGPT's got so good at relating with us, right? And making us feel good and making us feel great. And at the end, it kind of gives us a prompt. Do you want to do this, or this, right? A suggestion.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. It wants to keep us there.
Exactly. And if all we're doing is, the suggestion looks pretty good. Next, yes. Number 2, please. Mm-hmm. Right? And auto-accepting. What's actually happening here? So there's a challenge here where it actually starts affecting our ability to think critically, right?
Sure.
That coupled with the social media dopamine hits of scrolling, right? Like you said, so we don't read as much. We go for short form now.
Mm-hmm.
And now with these personalized auto-suggestions, we're actually, we're critical thinking less and less. And there are studies showing this for adults. And so I'm looking at it as the kids, where their brains are forming right now. How do we kind of get in front of that? And so an example of a way we could, right? And it's in the posts, right? One of my posts is...
We're going to link those, by the way.
Absolutely. So Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's still very new, very raw, right? I found nothing else online, so I started creating it myself because I couldn't find anyone else doing it. One of the ways we can actually do that is, a frame that I've developed for this is prompt then question, or question then prompt, right? And it's kind of you prompt something, you get a response, question it, sit with your kids and question the prompt. Instead of just going, click next, this sounds really good, but what about this? Or why did you say that? Or can you check that for me?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. So you're basically answering a question with an answer, and you're using that to create additional thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're right. And I know AI is meant to be useful, right? Mm-hmm. But we're also putting ourselves in a weird position where we're able to do less and less and less, right? It's like an old person, and I'm saying this like in the nicest terms possible, but as somebody gets older and they do less and less and less, their brain gets much less use, and that leads to some, negative effects of
cognitive declines, things like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Like, my grandpa used to do a crossword puzzle every single morning and throughout the day. He would get it out of the newspaper and he would do that thing. And he was sharp all the way to the end. Because he kept he didn't just, sit in a chair and do nothing after he retired, right? He kept his cognitive brain functions working on things, but when people let it, and I see this as a problem moving into the future too, because people definitely are going, as they get older, they do less and less and think less. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's going to cause some negative effects on how you function in your life, right? Being able to talk with, even just remember where you put your keys, or and
so and so I want to make a contrast for everyone, because I want to say that we're not AI negative, we're actually AI positive, AI forward, AI curious, right?
100%.
That's it. And so I don't want it to come across that we're talking about a negative here. We are positive and forward. The frame here is just like, I would never say, the internet overall is bad or we shouldn't have the internet. It's now such a part of our lives, and it's helped us in so many ways, right? From banking to being able to do this podcast to, to so many things, right? So AI is similar. The key difference is, what are we doing with that time that we have? Are we still being critical? Are we still answering the questions? Are we still allowing ourselves to grow? right? Because to your point, we are and we're going to see more cognitive decline in adults, right? For sure.
I believe so.
Yep.
As we do less or have robots
Mm-hmm.
washing our dishes and
Mm-hmm.
bringing us coffee or whatever that thing does. I just watched a video.
It's totally, and this is not far-fetched. This is not like it was when we were growing up and this was like futuristic movies.
This is in the next 5 years. We will have in the next 5 years, there will be autonomous AI controlled robots in your house, mopping your floors, vacuuming your floor, washing your dishes. They are going to be in houses in the next 5 years.
Guaranteed. And so going back to the analogy or the comparison with the internet, because of the internet and say Google Maps in your phone now, you don't remember, most people don't remember the phone numbers of all the people they're talking to. We used to, right, in the old days.
Yeah.
Street maps, right? We used to read maps and go through maps. Now Google Maps does it for us, right?
It was either one of two things happened. Either A, you would have I don't know if you even know this. There was something called the Thomas Guide. Do you remember the Thomas Guide?
Australia had a similar one. It was made by Thomas, but it was called in Melbourne Melways or in Sydney Sidways. Yeah. But it was made by Thomas.
It was a map of the whole city, and or if you needed directions somewhere, we would stop by the gas station and we would ask the gas station attendant. We would say, "Hey, do you know how to get to 123 Main Street?" And that guy would be like, "Yeah, go down to the end of the corner, turn right, and then go 6 blocks that way, and blah blah blah." And he would just tell you how to get there because they knew it. You couldn't do. I mean, we as a society could not live without our smartphones these days. And nobody, or GPS maybe. Maybe smartphones is too broad.
That's the thing. And even with smartphones in the last 20 years, we are seeing some cognitive declines with the general population, with school passing, with new graduates who are finishing high school. The test scores are a bit lower than they were pre-smartphone, right? And the same for adults at older ages. There's studies on this, right? The fear of the concern now is AI amplifies that exponentially. And so we need to stay tight on critical thinking. Coming back to kids, you talked about the old people, right? Oh, I shouldn't say old people, right? You talked about
That's okay. We can
older
say
people like me, right? Now cognitive decline. My challenge or struggle or fear for kids is their brain hasn't formed. What if it doesn't form in the same way, right? So they don't have the capacity. They can't do a crossword after their brain grow. They've already limited the overall capacity. So, right? So that's kind of why I'm focusing on kids versus, I mean, it affects everyone, but
sure.
That's kind of the focus.
That, and, I think in general, I think that if you have already reached a certain age, even when AI becomes more prevalent than it is now, I don't know if somebody's going to rely on it so heavily that they're not going to do anything, right? Like if you take, I'm 48 years old. Even if you took like a 30-year-old now or a 25-year-old or 20-year-old or whatever, they might generally use AI more than we do. But I don't know if they would rely on it so heavily that if somebody flipped a switch and AI went away today, that their life would just ultimately just disintegrate and they wouldn't be able to function. I just don't believe that. I don't even think people use AI to its even remote capacity yet. Right now, they use AI to reply to an email or summarize a website or, I don't know, make a logo. That's how people use they don't fully utilize it to its full. I mean, AI can do significantly more than what people actually use it for, right?
Absolutely.
And so with all, like I said, from even if you're 15, I think even if they flipped a switch, you'd be okay. Younger kids, where they haven't fully developed their brain, and if they get to this point where they want to write an essay about outer space in 3rd grade, and they just go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, write me a whole thing about outer space," they don't get that chance to develop that individual idea on their own. That's where I think it's so important that we control what our kids can do with AI, definitely up to a certain point. So at the very minimum, they can develop their brain properly and make sure that they are actively able to think on their own. Yes.
No, that's a really good point. And so my kids use AI. They use ChatGPT, right? But they use it in a controlled way. So if you think about it, the first thing we did was we created an AI charter, right? Like a family rules. It's just 4 or 5 rules, like no private information, names, addresses, school, all that sort of stuff, right? Faces, things like this.
Amazing.
Right? We've got
is this in your
question the prompt?
Is this in your information?
Absolutely,
too?
absolutely. So the first one's AI rules, really simple, and you can add your own, really simple, right? And we went through it with our kids, and then we went through some scripts, like some prompts in terms of how to make prompts safe. So it might be, hi, you're working with a 7-year-old. Here's a situation. Here's an aim of what we want to achieve from this post. It could be a game. It could be having fun. It could be tell me a fact about turtles that I might put in words like and make it safe for grandma or someone like that, right? So that we know it's primed the right way. And then when the response comes back, we now question the prompt together. And I'm doing it with them. And so we're going step by step. And so the first week actually was around an AI charter. Yes. The second one was around, what is AI and how does it work at a really high level? Stuff that you can explain to your kids if they're 3, 5, and 7 in my case, or 12, 10, 12. And then the way
I'm listening to you. I'm just just double check what that sounded.
And so the way I'm doing it is I'm alternating each week. 1 week on values, ethics, responsible AI, and the next week on more the technical, what is AI? What's an algorithm? How do we use it? How do we get better at using it? So that you're kind of, 1 week cautious and values, next week curious and how AI works, because we want our kids to be able to, what are they going to do to maximize their potential in an AI world? That's kind of the way
you have
right
all
now.
This on your Substack?
So the 4th post came out yesterday. Other socials are following soon, but I'm building a library. So this is just, between us right now.
Yeah.
Right. And I've actually got a program here of
is this
48 weeks.
People can read?
People can read right now.
Okay.
And we'll turn it into smaller, digestible chunks. But right now, this is a core body of knowledge. And as far as I know, I'm not seeing it anywhere else.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah.
So what I'd like to do is, number one, can you tell people how to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can find me at Parent in the Loop on Substack.
Okay.
All one word.
And we'll put the link below as well.
I've actually also got the Instagram and, handle and so forth, TikTok and so forth, but I haven't started posting on those socials yet. I'm building the content. We'll turn it into a more digestible social form soon.
Okay, that's awesome. Yep. I mean, I think that right there is, as a parent, is such useful information. I mean, you can absolutely utilize that in order to, especially with younger children. And maybe you have thought about this, but maybe there's for younger children or maybe teenagers all the way up to, a certain age where you can make really informed decisions on how to incorporate AI into your life, but appropriately, right?
Absolutely. And so it's really designed for parents who are not tech AI experts to explain some of these concepts and also some of the challenges or boundaries or issues to their kids in really simple steps.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's super useful information. Okay, so I want to kind of hit us with an outro here, which is where do you see you going from here? I know we've kind of talked about you building and maybe potentially buying some more properties and adding more. Talked about what your journey as far as real estate goes, where you came from in your workplace. I don't think we even got on the subject of what you do now, but you're still in consulting, correct?
Right. So consulting is still paying a lot of the bills. So it's still very much front and center. But really where my passion and focus is now is really on an AI venture studio, right? That focuses on human AI collaboration. So human in the loop is a very, it's an AI frame around having a human and human interaction to make sure we manage and use AI responsibly and make it better.
I love that.
And so Parent in the Loop was my social, my give back to the community on, frame on that to help kids grow.
And
But
have you already started working on this?
so I have actually. And really what we do is we work with founders, companies, owners, right? Usually on a small scale, small side. I've moved from large companies to small now. And the frame is really about how do we bring AI frameworks and ways of working into your business.
Okay.
And in a way that's responsible, testable, getting into all the nerdy details like evals and the way you actually manage AI and the LLMs and so forth.
Basically, this kind of goes back to the people don't fully utilize AI's full potential, right? They take these little snippets of what it can do and they try to incorporate it into their life, but the potential there is obviously much greater than that, right?
Absolutely.
So harnessing the power of AI and utilizing it to do things that you didn't even know it could do. Me and you had this discussion about using AI to create a marketing platform that would ultimately, at the end of the day, it would advertise for you without you having to do anything. And you creating a prompt that would create a device that would then in turn create pictures and content. It would review them, it would post it on social media for you, and you would just be hands off. The thought behind that is you could be selling, ice in Antarctica, but if you do it effectively, marketing is everything, right? That if you do it effectively, you could have a very successful company based off of this background processes that is advertising for you, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's just fascinating. And obviously, I'm not there yet. I don't fully understand all the ways. I was talking to Ashley the other day because she created a logo for her business with AI.
Yes.
And she was able to do it by continually prompting until she got exactly what she wanted. And I will tell you this, in the world of AI, prompting is everything.
Yes.
Because if you can properly prompt, you can do anything.
I think that's it. And a frame I want to add, so where I'm focusing on a niche within that is if you wanted to build a logo, or if you wanted to build an Instagram post, right? A visual, a carousel. I think with iterative prompting, you'll be able to do that. And it'll take some time. It's not a 5-minute exercise, but it's way faster than it would have been if you don't have the skills, if you're not an expert in this area, right?
Totally.
Where I try to support is on building the system that you talked about so that you're more hands-off. So that how does it do it tomorrow? What are the controls? How do we build this so that we're not just creating AI slop, right? And we're doing it responsibly, right? Those frames and controls are actually, I think, where the system build is around this. And I think there's a real opportunity there. And it's,
No, I love that. That's amazing. So I want you to come back.
Okay.
Because I want to talk more about this system that you're building for kids, and also the greater overall AI. What do you want to call it? A blanket? People in the loop.
That's it. Human in the loop.
Human in the loop
is the
human in the loop.
People use.
And because I think that you have something really smart that you can, I think, expand upon exponentially, especially with people not fully understanding AI and how it's going to integrate with our lives and all that stuff.
Right.
So, hey man, I appreciate you coming by.
Super. This was
fun.
fantastic.
Hey, thanks. We'll do this again soon.
We should.
All right.
We should.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.